can't believe it, but it's almost been 2 months since I published What Do You Want? And that means people have actually read it at this point, and I'm starting to get some pretty crazy stories in. So I wanted to share some of those with you and talk about it because now we know whether or not the book's good or not because people have told me what they think of it. So the first story is kind of funny. I wanted to share this one. A guy that I know from LinkedIn, he bought the book and everything. He's a business owner and, very wealthy guy up in Tennessee. Well, he bought the book, but on his Amazon account, he had his mom's address. She doesn't live in the same city. So he had his mom's address on there because he'll like buy things and send them to her all the time. And he accidentally bought the book and then shipped it there. So she calls him and she's like, hey, did you order this book? It came in, or was that for me, or whatever the case was. He's like, oh yeah, sorry. Like, that was for me. If you just want to mail it to me or something, like, that'd be great. And she goes, okay, yeah, I'll send it out in the mail tomorrow. So then like the next day she calls him back and she goes, hey, I've been reading this book. It's really good. You're going to have to get your own copy. And he said, listen, this is what you have to understand about that. He's like, your book is about what do you want? It's about, changing the way that you think about things, getting clarity, all this other stuff. He called me to tell me the story. He goes, my mom is she's like 77, 78 years old, set in her ways. This is how she does stuff. Like, she's always been that way, man. And he was like, and the fact that she called me and she was like, yeah, this book, like, it's really got me thinking about changing some stuff. He said, dude, those are words I never thought I'd hear from my mom. So that was a really funny story. I did not, when you write a book, it's difficult because you have to write it for like a specific person in mind. It's like, when I'm writing this book, I'm writing it for this type of person. I am thrilled that there are some 77-year-old ladies out there that are enjoying the book. Not exactly who I was writing it for, but you know what? If anybody can, find any kind of value in this and it can help them with anything that they're doing, I'm all for it. It's freaking awesome. So that was a really funny one. One that was really cool, and I thought this was like such a mindset shift. I had a friend, he bought a couple copies, and then he was actually reading it for the first time while he was going to do a speaking gig to a bunch of students at the college that he went to. And I think he said there was about 30, 40 students in the room, different things like that. And he kind of had like an idea of what he was going to talk to them about. But then as he was reading the book, right before he went in, he kind of changed it up a little bit. And one of the things that he ended up saying was he got in there and he said, hey, like they were talking a lot of things. There was some Q&A back and forth, but the theme kind of became, something that we ask college students a lot is, what do you want to do? And that's a very common thing. Like, you're in college, you're studying for a career, you're trying to figure out what you want to do. And he kind of turned it on its head a little bit. And he said, I don't want you to think right now about what you want to do. I want you to think about what you want. And it was like, it was such a tiny little tweak on the semantics, but he said the response was just insane. And he said one of the girls asked if she could actually read the book if she could read the book a little bit, like while they were doing the Q&A. And he noticed that she probably read it for like 40 minutes. And, this is not a long book. I wrote this thing. I mean, you can see how thin it is there. It's like less than 100 pages, a small book. I wrote this thing so, somebody could read it in 90 minutes or so. He said she was about halfway through the book after 40 minutes or so. And she came up to him afterwards and was like, just full of questions, like totally rethinking the way that she had been doing things at college. I think she was a senior getting ready to graduate or something. And it just like kind of flipped it on its head. And I just thought, at college, that's probably peak time when we are, especially when you're like junior, senior, that's probably like peak time when people are obsessed with like, what do you want to do? We're focused on the doing aspect of it. And it's so easy for us because we got to go out there and make money afterwards, right? It's so easy for us to lose sight during that time of like, well, what do I want? I've talked to college students before I ever wrote the book. And many, I love going to UF, my alma mater, and, I'll do speaking gigs there sometimes. The students will come up afterwards and they'll give me their scenarios. Hey, I've got job A versus job B. Here's the differences. This one's in this city. This one's over here. And, before I ever even wrote this book, this was kind of my go-to question. Well, what do you want? Do you want to live in a really big city? Do you want to work for a really big company and then be reduced to this tiny little role, but you'll get trained really well because they have the resources for it? Or do you want to work for a smaller company that's going to get you doing like a lot of things because they're resource constrained, but you're probably not going to get trained as well because they don't have the resources for it? Like, there's lots of trade-offs in every single decision that we make. So it's always fascinating to put that question when you're kind of at this peak life change of getting ready to finish college and then move on. So those are two like opposite ends of the spectrum. I didn't necessarily write this for college students. I didn't write it for, lovely ladies in their 70s or anything like that. But it was just really cool for me to see that like this question is applicable all through our lives. And it's something that we tend to lose sight on sometimes. So then you bring it back to, kind of the people I did write it for, the people that are stuck in kind of middle age. And it's like, yeah, I'm in my 30s, I'm in my 50s, something like that. And, life's kind of brought me to this point and I'm just doing the things that I'm doing because this is what got me to where I am. And I guess that's fine, right? We have lost sight of what we want. Well, I want to tell you one last story of somebody that I was talking to yesterday. And this was really cool because this guy is a client. He understands, or I'm sorry, he's not a client. So this guy is not a client. I have talked to him 2 or 3 times before, and he bought a ton of the books to pass out. It was really nice of him. And because of that, I was like, hey, man, I appreciate the support so much. If I can help you with anything, let me know. So we ended up having a call. And we were talking through a lot of things. And this is a smart, capable man, financially very well off, family doing well, all these other things. And he's sitting here going, I can do this, I could do that, I could do that. And we're talking business strategy. Like he came to me and he's like, we're talking business strategy. I think I'm going to stop doing this thing that feels like a distraction, but I'm kind of stuck between this and blah, blah, blah. I just said, hey, man, I got a question for you. I said, I don't know if you've ever been asked this before, if you've really thought about this. He's like, okay, what is it? And I just said, what do you want? And he's like, I can feel you mocking me. I was like, well, you read the book, right? And he's like, yeah. I said, well, this is the thing that ties it all together. And he had read like half of it. So he hadn't got to the part where this ties into it. But he was like, yeah, I'm halfway through. And I said, well, the part that you're going to get to is this. I said, when I'm asking, what do you want? When you're asking yourself that, more importantly, this is about what we want to start with is your personal life. You can technically, you can use this in personal or professional settings. It doesn't really matter. What does matter though, is you have to know what you want in your personal life because that will help you decide what you need to do in your professional life. So what I did is I told him, I said, think 3 years out. Okay, that's the time frame that I have found, through data, through effectiveness, corporate strategy, all these things. 3 years is a solid time frame to think long term. 5 and 10 gets too far out there. Too many things change. 3 is far enough to dream big, but it's close enough to still feel real. So I said 3 years from now, if you could only attain or accomplish 3 things, what would they be? And we kind of went through that mental exercise and he just started listing out a whole bunch of things of like, what does your ideal life look like in 3 years? And we came down to what he needed to make, the fact that he wanted to be doing it, he wanted to make all that, not working a 9 to 5, that's 100% in his business. And he wanted to, if he could get those numbers, he wanted to be able to make his wife work optional. They've got 4 kids now, all this stuff. He was like, if she wants to work, great. If she doesn't want to work anymore, I want her to have that option. So these were all the things that he was shooting for. So I said, okay, great. Now we know what you want. Now let's come back to where you are right now. Now let's look again with that context of what you want with the options you have in front of you. You can go this direction or you can go that direction. We've got A and we've got B. Which one aligns most directly with getting you to these things? He's like, it's option B. I said, I agree. I think option B is the very clear thing that is going to get you the fastest, most direct way possible to what you want. Okay, so now we know that. Now let's start talking about how. So then all of a sudden we start going down and saying, okay, well, you know that you only want to be working 45 hours a week, but right now you're working 60. If I put a constraint on you, constraints, by the way, are beautiful things whenever you're trying to think and figure something out, because what ends up happening is when you put a constraint on you, especially an extreme one. Like sometimes I'll ask people, I'm like, if you could only work 2 hours a day, what would you do to within your job to that would require you to still hit your goals? And then sometimes I'll back it up and say, if you could only work 2 hours a week, what would you do? And it sounds insane. Like, okay, I can't keep those goals the same and only work 2 hours a week, but it forces the thinking to the most important thing. So constraints are fantastic things when it comes that way. It's the freedom of options is where we get really stuck. And I talk about the curse of too many options in the book. But anyway, so the thing that we ended up doing is we were able to decide, hey, if you were only going to work 10 hours a week on the side hustle while you still have your 9 to 5, but you need to get it to at least 100,000 in revenue before you can quit your job and then start doing this full time, then how are we going to do it? So then we kind of walked backwards on what he was doing and then realized that the problem that he was solving was not a big enough problem to get him there. He was solving with this side hustle he was doing, he was solving $10,000 problems. Well, that's why he was only able to charge like $1,500 for it. So I just said, hey, for those exact same people, what's a $100,000 problem you could solve? Because if you solve a $100,000 problem, God forbid, you solve a $1 million problem for them. Guess what? You can charge more for that. So we just changed the thinking. We were able to figure out the destination, what he wanted. We were to come back and evaluate our starting point of where he was right now. And then we just started looking at the journey and saying, okay, how are we going to get there? Let's just start with this immediate thing that you're doing here. Can we do it better? Can we do it a little differently for the same type of people you're already doing great work for, but then help them charge more? And then charge them more for it because you're providing more value. So that's the importance of knowing what you want. If we hadn't settled on the destination and knowing, yeah, this is what I want, this is what I'm shooting towards, then if we would have gone back to his situation where he had option A and option B, technically neither one was wrong. Like they were both right. A lot of times in life, it's not about which one is right, it's about which one is best. And that's where people get really messed up. I'll give you one more example. I was talking to somebody recently and he was like, yeah, I think, I'm going to pay, they had got some inheritance money and everything. And they were like, yeah, we're thinking about buying this house all cash. And I just said, okay, why would, let's go back. This is a client, so I was pretty familiar with the details. And I just said, what do you want? And this guy wants to own his own business. He's working a 9 to 5 right now. He's kind of building out his side hustle, doing some things there, getting that going, all these other things. And I was like, if you could pay off this house cash, sure. But do you think, like, wouldn't it be nice to have some cash available in the future if you needed it for different business adventures or flexibility or family travel before your kids graduate high school? Like, if you pay for this all in cash right now, you guys are still, since it's a newer, bigger house, it's like you're still kind of tight on your monthly finances. You don't have a ton of buffer. And when we started looking at it in the context of what they had said they wanted, this is what we want for our life right here, then that informed the decision they got to make. So they paid off 50% of the house up front, and then they left the rest of it in cash. And then they put it into like a high yield savings account to get a little bit of interest on there, but it's, it's safe. So that's fine. That's a great way to functionally look at things and go, okay, based off what I want, was there a wrong decision there? Paying off your house is a great thing. There's nothing wrong with that. That is a good decision. But the best decision in their scenario, we could only figure out if they knew what they wanted as a family. And when we saw what that was, it was like, okay, yeah, let's reduce our risk over here. Let's pay down on this new house a little bit, get that mortgage really, something that we're not going to have to worry about every month, but then we'll have a nice pile of cash available to us and we'll be able to stay liquid. So that's the power of knowing with absolute clarity what you want. When you can think, again, I highly recommend choose 3 things. And by the way, I talk about this a little in the book. If you're going to think 3 years out, don't choose more than 3 things. You only have so many teams: time, energy, attention, money, and soul. Those are the 5 things you invest every day. And studies have shown that billion-dollar corporations that try to achieve more than 3 objectives are exponentially more likely to fail at them. Well, guess what? Humans are exactly the same. If we chase too many rabbits, we'll end up catching none. So 3 is what you have to limit yourself to. You can do 1, you can do 2, you can do 3. Can't do more than that. And if you do that, it will help you inform what you need to do today. That, this question, what do you want, works on the macro and it works in the micro. Okay, now I know what I want 3 years from now. What do I want to do today? What do I want out of this meeting? What do I want to accomplish this week? What do I want out of this email that I'm about to send this person? Like it helps us even in the micro. And then when we know, like, yeah, is this thing help? Is it in alignment directly with what I want? Or is this taking me off course? Or does it have absolutely nothing to do with anything that is important to me? That's how we're really easily able to then go and say, this is a distraction, or this is something that isn't the best choice for me. It's not a bad thing, but it's just not best. It makes decision making so much easier, makes it faster, and it gives you the confidence because you're able to track true progress in your life. And then you can look back 3 months from now and go, man, I've made some really great results, or I've got some really great results from this. So if you're interested in checking out the book, links in the bio and the description. You can go check it out below. It's available on Amazon. You can get it on Kindle or paper, or not paperback, just hardback. I hope that you'll consider checking this out. Again, I wrote this book so you can read it in 90 minutes. You can sit down for a long lunch break and hopefully go through it. But thank you to everybody who's been so supportive of that, who has read the book so far, and the amazing feedback I've got from it. If you have read it and you're checking this out, I have one tiny ask. If you would just go to Amazon and leave a review for the book, that's something that helps authors a whole bunch. So unless it's a 1-star and you hate it, just send me a nasty email and tell me why it sucks, okay? But I appreciate everybody so much, and I hope that you take a little time today to figure out, what do you want?